Okay. Um, let's go for some provocative topics. Fluoride. Is this the best thing, the world's best thing for cavity prevention, and why? Is it the Western's world best human mind dimmer? Sir Dovemere Robinson, a really beloved mayor of Oakland, 18 years, up to something like 10 years ago. Very highly respected man. Wrote a letter to a friend of mine and said that the Nazis in 1937 found out that by adding from 5 parts per million to 20 parts per million to the drinking water, took the resistance out of the prisoners in the camps. And so you can argue whether that's the real purpose or not. John Eisen, God bless him, puts out www.uncensored.com. He's getting 400,000 hits per month now. He published, which was basically the same article that Healthy Options, the same material that Healthy Options, one of our health magazines in New Zealand, put out, that the reason for the cavity prevention factor was that the first and virtually only valid experiment with this was that the people, after about 60 days in the experiment, were monitored for cavities, and they had none. They had no teeth, no cavities. So there's one to query. Current world leaders will go the Queen, will go Helen Clark, our MP in New Zealand, will go George Bush, and almost all the presidential runners. Okay, so current world leaders. David Icke. Now these guys are like really right on the horizon, and this unfortunately is not going to be a DVD about my telling you the truth. This is more my putting questions to you for you to sort out for yourself. David Icke, www.davidicke.com, that's I-C-K-E. He has got his work, The Biggest Secret, came out at least 5 years ago. I waited 2 years for that book to come out. And then I didn't read it for a lot because it was just too preposterous for me. He's saying that the kind of humans, E.T. bread test tube and all this sort of stuff, whatever, starting out with Sumerians, Mesopotamia, cradle of civilization, part of the world. Part of them were seeded by the reptilians, notably that went on to being the royal families of Europe, and including the Queen, and that the Queen was a shape-shifting, and this is her inner family feud, are shape-shifting reptilians doing satanic rites, eating under fives. There's a lot of documentation sorted out. I'd really love to just scrub it, you know, but being a sensitive and feeling at least 30-50 people's fingers, and there's 6 toes, 6 tail, stubby arms, snout, reptilian, and knowing 6 people personally that, looking at the news or whatever on TV, see this shape-shifting reptilian phenomena. It's hard to wipe entirely the subject. Well, I mean, where this puts me in society after I say all this stuff. I mean, Greg Hallett, H-A-L-L-E-T-T, Greg, G-R-E-G, www.greghallett.com, www.howtocontroltheworld.com. He's got a few books, Hitler was a British agent. 500 pages, well, too well documented. You sort of have to not laugh at the stuff. You sort of have to look into it to then figure out, you know, how real is this. In his third book, he's got 10, the 10th being E.T., is saying that Helen Clark studied at Tavistock in Moscow, where it is 1969, making her the highest KGB agent in New Zealand. She working for New Zealand against New Zealand. You know, you can check these things out. Is Bush working for America, for himself, for what? Not that that means that these other things about them is necessarily true. George Bush and virtually all the presidential runners, have they, to be considered by the big money, have they gone through the satanic skull and bones, Harvard, Yale initiations, satanic initiation? That's pretty easy if you want to Google. So, provocative questions. Does reincarnation exist? I'd like to say for the Christians, and nobody seems to study their own religion very much or practice it. I mean, like Bush, the Christian. In Nostradamus, in the Christian-Muslim conflict, I thought that was going to be the Muslims going to do terrible things to us. But what the Christian Bush is doing to the world's countries, is that terrible? Anyway, the point of it on reincarnation is that about 325, the Council of, I guess, Nicaea, Constantine times, and the city then called Constantine, had their councils and took out reincarnation of the Bible because he wanted a religion to be able to control the people. You think you only got one life and I control you? That's what he wants them to think. You think you got many, many chances? Think I might lose my control? Take that out. So, unfortunately, the practicing Christians have had some pretty heavy historical intrigue on your religion. Check it out, see if it's true or not. Are we ET, DNA, RNA seeded? Well, that kind of begs the question of, did God create the world? And to me, that begs the question, well, how did God get created? Who created God? What created God? And at that point, I've sort of got into the too hard file. But it's one of those things that if we want to know what we are, why we're here for, somebody's going to sort it out, you know, maybe 100th monkey, and then we can all know. Are vaccinations necessary and useful, or commissioned by people surely controlled by the dark force? If you're stuck on this one, and 9/11, and who invented the AIDS virus in a New Jersey laboratory, for what reason, by who's commissioned, by what money, that was gathered where, by growing what and selling it where, I'll let you Google or research it for yourself, or otherwise stay fooled. This is not a kindergarten DVD.